Hello, my wonderful people. Welcome to week 7 of our distance learning. Today is Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. And for those of you who don't know, today happens to be my birthday. And I feel really blessed today. The sun is shining. It is an amazing, beautiful day. I had some fun surprises today. Miss Baylor stopped by and we were at a distance, but she gave me some of her favorite flowers, and so I'm looking forward to planting those soon. And then Satori, who's at his dad's this week, walked all the way from his dad's house to bring me some chocolate cake. So that was really, really cool. And this evening, my mom is going to come over and stay at a distance, but she's going to bring takeout, and we'll have dinner together outside in this beautiful weather. And I decided that I wanted to kind of sit amongst my purple irises that are on either side of me. They were a gift years ago, well, not years ago, a couple years ago from a coworker of mine. And at the start, they were what are called tubers. It's the part you plant in the ground. And they were just the tubers. And a couple years later, they have grown into these absolutely amazing purple irises. And they're just beautiful. So I thought I'd sit amongst them today. So let's get into our week 7. Remember, there's only 2 assignments that are required, so I'm only going to go over the 2 assignments that are required, and then the other 2 you can take a look at and do if you want. It's totally optional. They're ungraded. It's just kind of for fun, and if you have questions, you can get a hold of me for those. So let's get going. Okay, so let's get started. As you can see, AM class, I'm using PM Google Classroom as an example. We have week 7 learning grid up. So let's click on that and open her up so we can take a look real quick. Learning grid looks a lot different this week. You have 2 required assignments. So these 2 assignments, number 1 and 3, you must do. The required assignment we have here is for more study on the Mayans. You'll be writing a quick news article after you watch some videos. And the other required is the novel study, where you're actually finishing up The Dreamer. So, and then kind of the assignment's kind of some reflection on that. So both important assignments to do, and that's all you have to do for the week. All right, so let's move on to look at number 1. Oh, and I should mention real quick that I'm not going to go over the optional ones. I'm just going to go over the required ones today. And if you choose to do the optional ones and you're having issues, just get a hold of me for any questions. Alrighty, let's move on. Okay, so I've now scrolled down to where it says week 7, all assignments. And that's what it is. It's all the assignments for this week under this one section. It's not broken down into social studies or language arts. They're just right here. So let's go look at number 1, where you're going to be writing an article. So you have a couple articles to read, and you have a couple videos to watch. So Maya Civilization for Kids and Human and Animal Sacrifice are 2 of the articles. So Maya Civilization talks more about their gods and their beliefs that way, and then of course Human and Animal Sacrifice talks about just that. You have these 2 videos here. Again, this is an informational video about blood and human sacrifice, and then you have this one called How the Mayan Legend Inspired a Deadly Ball Game, which is really interesting because they have this ancient actual sport that they just called the ball game that they played, and it really tied into their religion. And you might be wondering, why in the world are we learning so much about human sacrifice? That is because it was a major part of their religion and how they worshiped their gods. So it was very, very important. Just to note, this video down here called Maya Human Sacrifice, that keeps wanting to play every time I go over it, is totally optional. And the reason for that is because if you're a little squeamish with blood, it doesn't show real blood, it shows fake blood. But if you're a little squeamish with that, it might not be a video for you. I put it up because I think it's super interesting, but it's not so much something that you'll need to utilize in your article. So let's click on the assignment. There is a lot of instructions for this assignment. You will be writing a news article. Number 1 through 6 is just describing what you need to have in your article. Your article could be about a religious ceremony, a bloodletting or sacrifice, a ball game, an interview with a god or gods, or anything you choose that relates to Mayan religion, gods, sacrificing, and their ball game. So my examples that I have put here relate to focus on a Mayan ball game. So the best way to structure a news article is to first write an outline, which is a good way to structure any kind of writing. You review your research and notes, review those, and then jot down ideas for the following 6 sections. Remember, this is just the foundation upon which you build your stories. So the first thing you want is a lead sentence, which will be one sentence. And it's meant to grab and hook your reader right away. So here's an example I wrote. Everyone knew it was all over when the Maze Runners made their 5th shot. Now maybe you noticed my little play on words here. Maze like corn, Maze Runner like the books and movie. Ha ha ha. Anyway, so that kind of brings you in. For number 2, you're going to have an introduction, which can be 1 to 2 sentences. So that is which facts and figures will ground your story. So which are the main facts and information you want to focus on in your article. You have to tell your readers where and when this story is happening. So here's an example. Late last week in the center of El Mirador, at the foot of our Great Pyramid. And then I put ... because now you've set the time. Late last week, you've set the location, and then from there you're going to give the information. Okay, for number 3, you want to have some kind of quotation, which will be 1 sentence. And that's going to be what will give the reader a sense of the people involved and what they are thinking. So my example was, quote, "This was probably the greatest sacrifice I've seen," end quote, said the team captain of the Maze Runners. Okay. For number 4, you want the main body, which should be at least 3 sentences. So what is the heart of your story? You describe the event. You give some details about whatever your story is about. Number 5, you have a closing quotation, so something that might wrap things up after you've told your story. So you find something that sums up the article in a few words. Here's my example. Quote, "After we cut the heads off the bloodletters, team captain, we knew that the gods would be happy and we would have a bountiful crop this year." So the other team's name is the Bloodletters. They ended up losing and getting the head of the team captain chopped off for a sacrifice. So, and I should have put somewhere who made that quote, but I didn't. You then want a conclusion, which is optional. So if your closing quote is what's going to wrap up your article and it does so, then go ahead and end it with a quotation. But if you feel like you need more of a conclusion, then add that, and that's 1 to 2 sentences. So example here, this is my example. "This historic game ended with the Maze Runners bringing joy to the gods, and the Bloodletters needed a new team captain." It's supposed to be a little humor at the end, since he was sacrificed. Here is actually writing your outline. Step 1, you watch the videos and read the articles provided, and you take notes as you go. Step 2, you answer the following questions, and here's kind of where your outline comes in. What's going to be your lead sentence? What is going to be your introduction? What's going to be your opening quotation? What's going to be the main body? What's the closing quotation? And if you think you need a conclusion, what's that? And you can just type that right in here, okay? So really what I could do is put each of my examples, except for the main body, I have to come up with something right in there. Step 3, you're using your research notes and outline to actually write your article. So remember, you may need to write a rough draft before writing the draft you'll be turning in. You read the story at least 1 time for comprehension, so read it to yourself, make sure it makes sense and it can be understood. And then you want to make sure your writing tells a story with a beginning, middle, and end. So make sure you have that. Also, check to make sure you have at least 2 good quotes in it. Then you want to go back over your draft to check for spelling and punctuation errors. So that's where you want to read it out loud. This will help you catch any awkward phrases or sentences that don't sound right, and you might also catch that spelling and punctuation errors even more. Because maybe reading it silently sounds good, and then you read it out loud and you're like, whoa, that's a run-on sentence, or that doesn't quite flow. Once your piece is polished, turn it in. Be sure to have a headline which tells the subject of the story centered at the top of your article. So, make this really fun. Get creative with it. It could be a lot of fun. So just make sure you're turning in something that you are checking your COPs, your capitalization, order, punctuation, and spelling. Okay, you're making sure that you're meeting each one of these 6 criteria and have a good time with it. All right, so I'm going to jump down to number 3, which is our other required assignment, so we can go over that real quick. This is listening to the rest of the dream. So you're listening to those tracks, pausing when needed, taking notes. You can take a look at the questions first and then, pause and answer as needed. Again, make sure you're writing incomplete sentences. You're using race. Restate the question. Answer it. Please cite your sources. Those are the 2 big things, is the restating and the citing sources. Then, of course, people not checking their COPs, not checking the capitalization, order, punctuation, and spelling. So very important. That's part of your grade. So let's click on the assignment after you're listening to it. Okay, you're going to go in and you're going to answer these in detail. And look, explain, describe. So you're giving detail to your answers. So number 1, knowing how the story ends, do you think Naphtali was influenced more by his uncle, Orlando, or his father? Explain why. So for example, you can put, I think Naphtali was influenced more by his uncle or father, whichever you want. That's restating the question. And then you're explaining. Make sure you're explaining in detail. Don't just say something like his uncle Orlando because he can relate to him more. Give more detail than that. How can he relate to him? So thinking about that detail. Number 2, describe how Naphtali Reyes becomes Pablo Neruda. Now, I might be, this spoiler alert. So again, you're describing what happens for Naphtali to change his name. What happens? How does he end up doing that? Why does he do it? So you have 2 different questions within the question. Citing your sources. What track number did you find it? Or what chapter did you find that in? Please do that. Number 3, Naphtali has a perfect day in the woods exploring and finding treasures. Describe what your perfect day in the woods would be. Would you collect the same treasures? What would you collect and why? So, my perfect day in the woods would be, there's your restating the question, and then you're going into detail about collecting treasures. What would you collect and why? Giving detail. Then you're citing your source. Okay, so I want to see some detail in what you're writing. This shouldn't be 1 sentence answers. It might even be more than 2 sentence answers if you're making sure that you're answering each part of the question and giving detail. So those are your 2 required assignments for the week. These are the only 2 assignments you have this week. So let's turn in quality stuff. All right, things are due Thursday by 5. Okay. That is week 7 for you. Yes, I'm 27 years old. What an age. No, I'm kidding. I'm 10 years older than that, actually. 37 today. I don't feel that old, but yeah, that's where I'm at today. So, and I hope all of you have gotten out and enjoyed the sun as well. So, wow, we are at week 7 of our distance learning. That means 2 more weeks to go. Next week will be a full week minus Friday. And then the week after, week 9, is going to be our 3-day week. And that is it for the school year. You will have completed your 6th grade year. It has ended not how, definitely not how we expected. And no one, I don't think, could have expected our school year to go this way. And I have to say, it's definitely bittersweet. I'm proud of all of you. However, I'm sad that this was how we have to end our time together, and I just have to be thankful that I got the time I did with you, and that when our building is open again, I will see you all as amazing 7th graders next year. So you have a lot to be proud of, and I'm proud of you, and we just have to do the best we can and stay positive during this time, and kind of think of this as going with the flow. I always say, I heard this a long time ago and I always like it. I try to be the leaf on the river. You know, a leaf that is dropped from a tree and is flowing down a river, and whatever it comes to, and it's not permanent, and it passes, and you just keep moving forward. And that's how I really feel, and maybe some of you do too, with the pandemic, that we just kind of have to go with the flow. We've lost some control over some of the things we can do in our lives, and that we just um, do the best we can and kind of go with that flow and be that leaf flowing down the river, maybe hitting some rapids, some difficult times, and then finding some peaceful, wide, slow-moving areas where we can relax and take it easy and appreciate what we have. So um, that's my little deep comment that I have for all of you. Um, and I will probably continue with the sentimental stuff because I'm very sentimental, and you'll probably hear all sorts of sentimental stuff our next couple weeks. And this last couple weeks have just been extra hard for me. I've missed you all a lot, but I get choked up. I love you all. Anyways, um, let's have an awesome week, okay? And let's find positives in this time, and let's appreciate the things that we do have. And I love you all. All right. Bye bye.